All right. So welcome back. Hope you had a nice break and could have something to eat and just, yeah, nourish yourself as we learn together. We learn lots of new things and really assimilate the new concepts. Um, yeah, it's been really great. Like first session with Lajane and thinking about how we can bring our full selves to the work. I don't know about you, but I'm really inspired, and I am excited to continue this process as we think about how we're devising performance for immersive web space. In this afternoon session, I'd like to just share a bit about my process. But before I do that, let me just, for the benefit of anyone who's seeing this video as a recording, my name is Valencia James, and I'm a Black femme and with dark skin, and I'm wearing right now a black sweater and a colorful headscarf. And I have been leading this project of the Volumetric Performance Toolbox with my colleagues who are really amazing in allowing this capability of having our volumetric stream into Mozilla Hubs and Spoke. My colleagues at Glowbox and Sora Bluey. So I want to just acknowledge you. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Thomas Wester and Ben and Holly. All of you have made this possible. Thank you to iBeam, who is making this residency and the work itself possible with generous support and funding. Thank you all for being here and joining us in thinking about how can we create a decolonized and decentralized future for the future of online live performance. So to start, I'm not sure if Kat, yes, is Kat here? Because we would start with
hi
introduction. Yeah, how is
hi
the internet?
Yeah, this is Kat speaking. I've had a very interesting morning. There was some type of kind of windstorm in the evening that knocked yesterday evening that knocked a tree down, and so there's quite a few blocks around my neighborhood that are without power and internet. So I'm just dialing in, and I was hoping to get it back by this afternoon, but I haven't. Valencia, I shared my slides, access to my slides with your email. I thought if you'd be willing to screen share, I could talk through it briefly, if
Sure.
That's okay.
I didn't, let me
Cool, yeah, thanks for being flexible.
Pull this up, yeah, sorry I didn't see that email.
Yeah, no problem, I just barely shared it.
Oh, I see, okay, invitation, slide. Okay. Can present. Okay, let me just. All right, I'll share my screen. Okay, so I got it. So I'll share the screen. And you guys can see that. Just gonna go ahead and move this to a new window. Do you see that? No, you're not seeing the same. Wait, let me pause the share. Okay, I'll try again. Great. So are you guys seeing this?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Okay, okay.
This is Kat. Thanks so much, Valencia. I appreciate it. My name is Catherine. I'm not able to be visible right now, but I'm working from Eugene, Oregon, just south of Portland, on the traditional lands of the Moala, the Kayapuya, the Cathlamet, the Clackamas and Multnomah. And I was born in southeastern Idaho on the lands of the Blackfeet and Shoshone-Bannock tribes. I am a sound, performance, and new media artist. And Valencia, you could go ahead and change the slide, please. I was trying to think about the most relevant work to share with you all in the context of this residency and kind of where we're going with it. And a huge part of my practice is experimental sound. And I've been really, really interested in labor. A lot of my conceptual work is driven by labor. This was a piece that I did called Verfremdung, which is a German term to describe isolation felt by workers due to the implementation of new technologies. And I collaborated with a musician, Carly Barton, who's pictured bottom right. And I made a three-wall video projection in collaboration with over 70 different Mechanical Turk workers. Mechanical Turk is an online platform that anyone can sign up for, where you kind of bid on jobs or do very menial labor for almost no money. And I wrote a paper about it too, but it was interesting to be able to collaborate with so many people. You could slide forward, Valencia, please. And I also, this was like when I started experimenting with virtual reality, I actually took a class from Thomas Wester, who is one of the co-founders of Globox. And this is just a still, but I started experimenting with photogrammetry and a software called Breckle Point Cloud, which is a volumetric motion capture software, and Unity 3D. Next slide, please. I had a residency just this past year with NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And again, this is relevant just in kind of like thinking about how research plays a big part in the work that I make. It was kind of up to me what I did with the project, and I ended up researching labor dynamics within natural resource management in the Pacific Northwest of the states. And that didn't just include kind of interviews and access to information within the agency, but I also was able to kind of embed myself within the seafood production plant in Newport, Oregon, and commercial fishing, recreational fishing. There were a few tribal members that I got to speak to from the Kalapuya. Next slide, please. So my creative output for that ended up in a feature-length performance that I choreographed for the Pacific Dance Ensemble, which is a troupe that is based in Newport, Oregon. Several of the members, it's a younger group, it's age 12 to 17, and some of the members were children of workers at the seafood production plant there. Some were from families that were involved with NOAA as biologists or SOC assessors, so it was like really embedded within the community. And in this production, I started playing with projection mapping and generative visuals and Isadora. Next slide, please. I was continuing to work with data as a raw material for interpretation, so not at all dissimilar from kind of using Mechanical Turk data to create the digital labor project. I was collaborating here with one of NOAA's lead acoustics members, who contributed a bunch of this sonic data on the left there that is, excuse me, that is basically a data visualization of how they monitor different types of fish populations, which I made into oil painting. So again, like always, I'm always trying to kind of extrapolate new meaning from data and using it sort of as a creative point of departure. This work, I'm on the tiniest little phone screen. I'm not even sure what that says.
Yeah, sorry, I needed access to permission to view the video. Requesting access. Okay.
Okay, let's see if I can give it to you really quickly.
Sorry, I think my internet's just cut out for a bit. So
Yeah, no problem. It's a very interesting internet day for me also. Okay, I'm going to grant you access.
Okay. I need to just refresh that. Oops. Let's look at the, okay. It says I don't have permission to play two media objects in this presentation.
We don't have to worry about playing them. I can link those after. We can just view the still images just for the sake of time, and I can share those links once my internet is back. That works.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So this is the slide that you
just
want,
to
right?
simplify. Yes, please. Thanks, Valencia. This is a project, the most recent project that I was able to present in public. This was, we showed this in early March of this year. The work is called Feedback, and it was made with three really dear friends and collaborators. Kyle, Edward Boston Motone, and Conrad Kaxor are dancers that I worked with, and Megan McKissick.
Sorry, the interpreters are not going to be able to spell these names. If you could say them one more time, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. Kyle, Edward, Boston Motone. Yeah, that's right. And Conrad Kaxor. Yep. Yep, that's it. And Megan McKissick.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to put some of this information in the chat or Slack as well. This work was called Feedback, and what we were kind of focusing on conceptually was a sense of disembodiment in the face of rising digital technologies. So this was really cool because of the process. We had a lot of different collaborative creating sessions where we were all bringing personal experiences or stories, prompts, and ways of kind of looking at how to stay in our bodies and engage with a sense of kind of in the moment presence, while also kind of moving forward with technology in the way that it is, but making it work for us and not the other way around, and finding ways to have peace in such a rapid kind of new hyper-visual reality. This project was also really exciting for us because we were using projection mapping and generative visuals that were sound responsive. So we had spatialized sound that was interacting with our lighting design. Next slide, please.
Oh.
So this is the video that won't play, so we can go past it, and I'll share it. It was a clip from a VR experience. It's more in line. It's like a movement and sound VR experience that I'm excited to share a link to. And then this is an image, just lastly, this is an image from Gallery of the Future, which is something that was created and spoke by, in part with SETI, the Creative and Emergent Technology Institute. Marin, who taught our spoke workshop last week, she and I both contributed to this, and one of the works that I submitted was a remote collaboration with Indigenous artist Divine Brick, who's based in LA. And that was a really interesting experience because we were remotely we had never met before, so we got to know each other through Zoom and connected to make a 2-channel video that was then put up in this space. And we were dancing with, I with a cinder block and he with a brick. And we were thinking about mold making and thinking about raw materials and how they become molded and solidified, and thinking about that as a metaphor for social and cultural constructs. And we kind of did like a movement meditation to focus on rebuilding and imagining a future that we want to see, and kind of reinventing how we think about individual pieces within a structure. And if you just want to go to the last slide, I think it might be 2 slides away. I have my, and then one more, I think I have my website up. And again, I'm happy to share all of that. But yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties. Thanks so much for your help, Valencia. And I just want to say that I'm so excited to be able to be invited to be a part of this and to get to work toward contributing in the ways that I can toward creating with such a talented group of artists, and also working toward an equitable and inclusive digital space. It's like very, very exciting to me to see all the just amazing potentials for creating healing and inclusive artworks. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Kat, for so generously sharing and for being here. It's so beautiful, and I'm very excited about about sharing space, and I would love to hear more about your work and process as we go on. So yeah, so I think we're gonna just continue. I'm gonna share some slides. I'll do I prepared a presentation around the process that that I went through with the the pilot performance of Volumetric Toolbox. But I also want to make sure we have some time to create. So I'll kind of go through it a bit quicker. Let me know if you need me to slow down and where, but I'd like us to have like at least an hour to try to create in in groups. So let me just set up my presentation. Window. Okay. Can you see this? Oh no, okay, I need to stop this share. 1 second. So you guys see my notes. Great. Okay, so you can see the slide, right? But not notes.
Correct.
All right, thank you. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to share a little bit, give an overview about my process in creating in volumetric, live volumetric performance over the past, over the summer really. There's certainly no right way to approach like immersive creation from immersive web space, but I'm just offering, a bit of insight into how I approached it in hopes that it will, assist in how you're going to be thinking about creating your own performances. So, yeah, over the summer, collaborated with Glowbox and Sorobluey to create a performance in Mozilla Hubs. And it was, the research is funded by iBeam. And so I was very excited about the idea of creating for immersive web space. And so I was questioning what is it to move, or what is it to exist as a Black femme in immersive web space. And so I started with, I had a few steps that I just took intuitively. I started with the theme, and then I broke down that theme into performative elements, because this is how I tend to approach theater work. And then I did movement exploration, but not necessarily in that order. Movement exploration was throughout. Then I thought of like, okay, so I'm in immersive web space, where am I gonna dance? So I had some ideas about my setting and creating my virtual environment. And then lastly, we built the scenes, and then we tested the performance through at least 2 or 3 iterations. And this is how we came about this performance that we performed in September and then in October as a part of Culture Hub live stream performances. And so in this slide, you're seeing a kind of volumetric image of a Black femme in bright clothing in front of a faint outline of a cylindrical structure, which I'll get into that a bit more. So the first step for me is usually an idea. You can start with an abstract idea or question or a recurring subject matter or a thread. This is quite a traditional way that art and literature defines its focus. And so for me, that focus was the Afro Now, this idea of the Afro Now as defined by Stephanie Dinkins, which has greatly inspired my work so far. And in her interview with Tommy Martinez, she defines Afro-Nowism as the taking the leap and the risk to imagine and define oneself beyond systemic oppression. And the question is not only what injustices are you fighting against, but what do you in your heart of hearts want to create? And this was an interview called Towards an Equitable Ecosystem of Artificial Intelligence. And it was put online in Broadcast, which is, I think, a publication by Pioneer Works in May of this year. And I was just, this was July, the height of the Black Lives Matter protest that were revived by the brutal killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. And so I was feeling very strongly about, just how am I existing how was I existing in that moment, and how was I holding that moment? I was also inspired by Dorothy Dessier's work redlining the Holocaust memorials and the people of the Afro-Atlantic. She is a voodoo priestess and a scholar who writes about, she has this concept called spatial justice, which she defines as the right of African descendants to the memory and commemorations of the injustices subjected on them through memorials and more widespread education around those places. And as well, the amazing work by Octavia Butler Kindred, which is a novel that talks about basically the protagonist Dana is being summoned through space and time by her ancestor who's living in the time of slavery in the US. And so it's just this connection with ancestors was a big part of what I was defining as what is my Afro now? How can I have a deeper relationship to my ancestors? And so, so like I said, I like to break down themes into their like theatrical elements and work on them separately. And then that's how I would play on how these things can be brought together to create different meanings and nuances. So I'm very inspired by Laban, who was a theorist and a choreographer and many things. He was a dance teacher around the time of the early 20th century. And Viewpoint by Mary Overly, she was very active, and she's a choreographer and a dancer and a theorist, also from the postmodern era around like the 70s. And so she has this theatrical, theoretical kind of system called Viewpoints. And I'll get a bit more into that. But so I basically, this is how I divided up the performative elements, and I approached it through the performance and immersive space through the space, thinking about what was the atmosphere, what are the colors, the shapes, the setting, movement, what are the qualities that movement qualities I want to explore in that space, and how am I relating as a performer into virtual space. the sound. The sound, I didn't actually get to be as intentional as I wanted. Like that came through the process of iteration. But we can talk about that more. That's, it's spatialized. What are the affordances of Mozilla Hubs? And basically the time, the duration of the scenes and the movements, and what's the flow of the performance? What is the journey that we're carrying the audience through? So a lot of this, at least the first two, I could approach very intentionally, and the rest was through the iterative process. And so just a little bit about the 6 viewpoints. I encourage you to take a look at this. There's a great resource. I'm going to post it into the chat, called 6viewpoints.com. Maybe I'll do it after because it's a bit hard to do that now. So basically breaking down like performance into...
I'll do it.
Oh, thank you. Space, shape, time, emotion, movement, and story. And so, looking at spatial relationships to audience, to objects, to the performing body, what's the tempo of the movement or of the action, and how is the movement and the emotion and the narrative, if there's any, coming into play. This is actually even more strong in my work. Looking at how dance can be translated into new media, I find myself coming back to Laban's space theory, space harmony theory, in which he looks at how movement relates to different structures like the cube or the icosahedron, and also his the 8 efforts. So these are different ways of devising like movement qualities based on elements like the weight, time, way of using the space. And so this is also something that's really interesting to play with. And I find the Laban was really a strong starting point for my movement exploration and just how I approach movement in immersive web space. And so I thought I just let us pause a bit here, just, so that we can maybe embody a bit of this information with movement exploration. I'd like us, if you have some space, and if you'd like to just stand or move, I'd like to just share a bit about how I use the Laban cube as a kind of a tuning exercise. So I'm just gonna put my camera, and if you can see me, just so we can like get into a bit of practice, as well as the theory. So I just like you to stand if you can, or if you need to sit, then just visualize yourself in the center of the cube. So I'm gonna put the picture of the cube back. So you see where the cross happens. You can see the different dimensions, the X, Y, and Z axis. So think of your navel being in where those axes intersect. And you can think of that as like the 27th point, and think of yourself actually standing inside a cube. And just take a few breaths there. And point by point, I'd like you to just visualize like there's a plane on the surface of your feet, and think of like this flat square. So you're in the middle of this flat square, you're standing in the middle of this flat square. And so there are 9 points, including the one that you're standing on. 9 points around you. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are points going in front, and then behind, to the side, and then on the 4 diagonals of that square that you're standing on. So that's 9, including the one that you are actually in the middle, standing in the middle. And then there's the same kind of square that intersects your midline. Again, there are 9 points there. So the 4 diagonals and the 4 cardinal points in front and behind and the 2 sides. And there is 1 in your midline. And then the same right above you, there's a point just above your head. And they are the 4 diagonals. And then the 2 points in front and behind and on the 2 sides. So there you visualized your cube, your 27 points. And now I just like us to, on your own time, just practice touching each one of those. You can start with the diagonals or the cardinal points. You can be systematic about it or mix them up. And be playful. How does it feel to reach with your fingertips, to really bring that intention into your fingertips? Play with some diagonals. How does it feel to cross your hands across your body in order to reach a point? Okay. And just find an end in your own time. You come back to the center. And take a breath and just notice what that feels like in your body. Okay. So, yeah, how was that? Okay, we can sit back now if you feel like. How did that feel?
This is Terry speaking. I enjoyed it as a way of bringing intention, the intention that Lajane mentioned earlier in her presentation. I felt like this exercise helped me bring an intention to the movement with that task of trying to touch all the different vertices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this intention, I find that really helped to ground me when thinking about moving in a space that, I have to like visualize, because, you have basically when you set up your camera, you step away from the web browser. So you don't see, the environment that you created, that you're actually in like digitally. So I'll talk a bit more about that. And so this is one way that I like to just tune myself for performance. And the next one, which I'll let you explore, is the idea of moving in 3D 360 perspective. And this came out of just playing with recording via Depth Kit. It's a software that you can, using another depth camera, you can record your 3D video, and then when you play it back, you can change the angle of your perspective. And I found that's something that, you know, performing in immersive web space does. You can actually change. It's not just a flat perspective. You can actually walk around the performer. So what does that do? And I found, for me, it reminded me of being maybe how my ancestors might see me as from bird's eye view or from below, or different kind of perspectives. So the next thing I did was to choose the setting. So I had a lot of help with from my collaborators at Glowbox and Thomas. So I went on Sketchfab, and I was really into ruins. And then I unexpectedly found this 3D model of a sugar mill. And this immediately tied into what had been happening in my life, which is I've been speaking to my relatives and hearing, like, my grandmother told me a story of her mother having to leave her as someone while she went and cut cane. We're from the Caribbean, so that's something. In the Caribbean, there are many of these sugar mill ruins. And so I'd also heard from my uncle about working at the sugar plantation for years. And so I was delighted when I found this. And then also I was really into point clouds. And so this is like a still of a point cloud I was really interested in exploring. And also this idea of the dusk, the setting of dusk, was also something that spoke to me. And so I had some help basically to get this all together. This is actually a custom set, thanks to Thomas Wester and Holly Newlands and Ben Purdy of Glowbox. And so in this slide, you're seeing me, Black femme, in brightly colored clothes in the cylindrical form of the sugar mill. And it's rendered right now as a point cloud. And you see the avatars in the space who are the audience. And we had a scene change where we brought like a more solid kind of model of the sugar mill. So those were the two settings that I had picked to use. And then the next thing was, how do we transition and how do we use those scenes? And basically, yeah, we basically built a test. We invited some friends to watch, and we just tested how do we present this piece. It was not a piece at the time. It was just two scenes, and I was talking about the process. And what was really helpful, though, we found for the experience, was the webcam feature that is already available in Mozilla Hubs. And it also helped to create a sense of liveness and connection with the audience. So you're seeing 4 different webcams of myself, Thomas Wester, Malaika, Imhotep, and Simon Boas after a performance. And it was a nice experience for everyone. And it was like a question and answer, artist kind of talk thing. So I found like having the webcam really helped. And I must say that we also used the webcam before the volumetric performance, and this really helped people to make the connection between me as a performer and how my actual form, and then my pixelated form in the actual immersive web space. So I found that was something that we could connect the idea, the experience of liveness actually transferred in this way. Yeah. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. I don't know how clear that was. But there's also questions about how does the audience participate and how does the performer interact with the audience? And this is how we have approached it. And I'm sure there are many ways to do that, which you guys will bring to light So in terms of challenges and limitations, there are a few, like the latency between the movement and movement in your physical space, and the length of time it takes for it to actually appear in the immersive web space. For me, I was struggling a bit with feeling present in, as a performer while I'm performing in the space. I was able, while I was appeared as webcam, it was fine, because I was in front of my screen and I was able to speak directly to the guest in the space. But as soon as I had to leave from being in front of my screen to being in front of the depth camera, it was very off-putting. It was like, okay, I'm moving here and I'm trusting that it's legible and it's being received well. So that was hard. And I'm sure other performers, you know that feeling. The resolution of the volumetric video, it's not, what we're used to with video. So that's also something that can be, worked with. And I found it very beautifully visually, but I got some feedback that I was off-putting. So there's also challenges with internet bandwidth and frame rate. So these are all things that it's really good that we can discuss and just explore together. And so I also want to hear from you and open up the discussion for what do you see like the affordances or the new possibilities that live volumetric performance brings. Anyone wants to give an idea of what they can think of?
Hi, this is Kat speaking.
Hi, Kat.
Thanks so much for that presentation, Valencia. It's such an amazing project and was really wonderful to hear you talk in depth about your process. Something that stuck out to me just in the example of this pilot work that you did is being able to translate space that might be far away or that we might not have access to, and like the sugar mill in the case of this performance that you did, but being able to share those spaces and with an artistic rendering. So it's being able to really have a say in how those spaces are translated or activated, and repurposing or reworking through. You'd probably have more to say on that than I could about your personal connection to it, but just being able to sort of bring new life to these spaces or new conversations to these spaces, I think is one amazing thing about the live volumetric performance.
Yeah, thank you, Kat, for that insight. Yes, this is something that I thought quite a lot about when I was thinking of like, well, what is the space that I want to perform in, and thinking of historically what the sugar mill, represents, and where, being that site of horrific injustice, and how it still impacts our lives so much today. How our whole economic system has been based on the exploitation of other people. So I'm thinking of my performance as maybe an act of healing, or some way of creating more awareness around that. Yeah. Any other ideas?
Hi, this is Carlos speaking. I was particularly drawn to the idea of scale inside your setting, and even yourself as a performer too, and how you make that decision of the grandiosity of your gestures and performance amongst these very small, tiny avatars, and what that kind of does, and then even doing the scene change, maybe even changing scale or whatever, any of those kind of parameters. sort of opens this dialogue between you and environment, which is I think an affordance of volumetric performance.
Mhm. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's something that I'd love to, and I hope we can really play with, with through our kits, and now we can use Spoke, because one thing is that as a performer, I didn't know how to actually approach building my own sets. So what you see is something that's custom made with the help of Glowbox, and but in this process, I'm looking forward to how we can actually be the makers and performers at the same time, kind of like what Lajane was talking. But thanks for that. Yeah, the scale, yeah, that's something I think has a lot of potential in. Another thing that came out of like the feedback was how you can really blur the lines between the performer and the audience, and kind of subvert the hierarchy or that divide, because the space is so shared. But it depends on your intention, right? Because in the first test, we found that just having everyone free to do go wherever they wanted, there's a lot of crowding, and people were coming like right onto the stage and going in and out of my stream. So we approached it by limiting that a little bit, but there's so much possibilities. Like I know Remy was had told me it was nice to see what the audience members and how they were moving in that time. So yeah, lots to think about. And so we're very quickly running out of time. I'd like us to get into a group exercise, and this is a bit ambitious, what I have thought of today. So why don't we simplify it? I don't know how much more we can simplify this. But what I would like to propose, and I'm really open to how you'd like to approach this. My proposition for the next 40 minutes would be that we work in pairs, get into pairs. We can quickly ideate or choose a concept or theme as a starting point. But we can actually just skip to just choosing a scene, a template in Hubs or something that you've published from Spoke, and think about, what assets you'd like to put in your rooms. And the focus of what I'd like to get into today is how can we import our volumetric streams into the scene. So I hope you have your kits handy. Oops. If not, like, take a moment to get them out. And I'd like us, like, stemming from Lajane's prompt, once you've been able to get your volumetric stream into your scene, I'd like us to take turns witnessing each other's movement from inside of the room. How does that sound? And do you need more, would you need more direction or help to set this up?
I feel like I'm a bit, this is Carlos speaking. I feel like I'm still a bit unclear on how to import my live stream into Spoke. So I might need some help from Simon or somebody else from that.
Yeah.
That's how everyone else feels.
I'm happy, Simon speaking here. I'm happy to help out with that. I'm trying to be conscious of how we use the time, to do the exercise that Valencia has put together for us, and also, troubleshoot things here. So Valencia, what do you think? As I worry that getting everyone's kits set up and running could easily take us past 2:30. since it's all pretty new. It's stuff that'll take practice, and we're working out, a lot of kinks along the way.
Do you think if we should use volumetric stream at all?
Oh, I just mean for the rest of our time right now. Like would you prefer that people spend time, working on the concepts and ideating, or getting their camera set up? Because there are things that, as we talked about yesterday, right, will lead into people's, the residents' own performances. And it's stuff to, help carry you through the break that we go on and into our next series of workshops.
Yeah, I'd really love, even if it's not, I mean, we take like, we focus on one person's stream. It'll be good if we can spend some time looking at what are the possibilities of having that stream in the scene. Like, what are we experiencing from that stream, and what are the possibilities of that? And that's what I'll be really curious about, because there are other parts like the ideating, that's something that you would do. You can continue working on and refining during the break, but now we're here together. I'm just very curious about how are we thinking about like the affordances of having this live volumetric stream. Like, what is coming out of that?
Simon speaking. That makes sense to me. And Carlos, I'm happy to just walk you through again how to get the stream into Spoke. And there are a number of people here who have theirs working too, so that could be a way that you sort for how you group up to work on this. So maybe someone who is competent or has gotten their stream working in Spoke, could work with you, and that goes for anyone in this group.
Yeah, so not everyone needs to have that stream. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to repeat exactly what you said, but just iterate, like, we can have, so the way we make in pairs, there can be someone who is, working on the actual space or the template and the assets, and the people who are like comfortable with getting their stream inside the space can focus on that. Does that make sense? Is there anyone who has that set up already? Well,
This is Terry speaking. I was able to set it up last time and bring it into Spoke, but I don't want to say that and it not work today. So I'm trying to see if I can get it to come up quickly. But I was successful after our last meetup. So let me see if I can get it.
Simon speaking. If anyone gets stuck, I'm here to help out with that too. And I can also, Thomas is available to join the call if anything major pops up too.
Yeah, that's okay, Remy. Yeah. Okay, Kat. Yeah, I know people don't have the internet is hard. That's a challenge. No problem. We're glad to hear it was successful when you gave a try yesterday.
Hi, Valencia. This is Kat. I was able to have success importing assets and getting the stream running as well. And I'm super available. I'm by no means an expert, but I'm super available to have independent calls past this workshop too, to help out if I can be of any help technically.
The others? Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for suggesting that.
Simon speaking again. Thanks for saying that, Kat. That's that kind of support, group support is part of the reasons we set up the Slack channel, right? So that you all can have a place to discuss, share ideas, ask questions, either of the organizers but also of yourselves when we're not in these calls, because we have limited time in these calls, unfortunately. But that Slack channel is always there, and even over the break, like I'll be on there too with any kind of questions that come up. And our hope is that Some of you will, check back in regularly so you can, offer support if you figured something out or see someone needs help, see if you can help them out. But again, getting back to that community idea of sharing this technology.
One last question. I think I'm almost set up, but what was the URL for the spoke related to volumetric performance?
Simon speaking. I put it in the chat. It's volumetricperformance.art. That goes to the hubs. And if you put /spoke after the URL, you'll go to the spoke instance.
So who are the volunteers for putting their volumetric stream up and running? Okay, there's 3 of you. Okay, great. So what I'd like to do then is, that works well. So we can what if we pair you with, say, can make breakout rooms, and we can have you paired with those who are not able to get their volumetric stream in. And I'm wondering what's the best way to do it, because if
oh no, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Simon, because if someone else is choosing the hubs room, is there a way to get the volumetric stream of say, Terry or Carlos in? They would have to share their stream key with the person.
They would have to share that streaming URL. If someone else is streaming, if someone's streaming someone else's spoke, they'd have to share that. I don't see the things that I said earlier or on Friday about keeping that private. That mostly has to do with not putting it out publicly on the internet. I get the idea that there's enough trust built here that people will not be abusing each other's stream keys or streaming on each other's keys. So please, someone jump in and let me know if this doesn't make sense. But I think that it's okay for people to share within this group their keys. If anything does go wrong, if people need their keys changed, we can totally do that. If you're making a spoke scene, you can share that with someone else to run. But whoever's making the scene will need the URL for the for the stream. So if someone's not comfortable sharing theirs, let us know and we can work around that too. But again, it's important to point out that we can change those keys too. If this happens plenty in live streaming, a key gets compromised for whatever reason, or you end up showing it by accident on your screen, it's pretty quick to change that.
What I'm thinking now is probably if you guys are able to set that up, then once you publish it into Spoke, we can all take turns going into your hubs room and witnessing the movement from there. That could be something. Oh, sorry, Simon, would you be able to work with Antoine for setting?
Yeah.
No. Is he here? No.
I saw Antoine here.
Yeah, I think
Might have lost.
he's just here to sell. I see him now.
Marianne speaking. Simon, is there a way to get? I have mine up and running, but for some reason the like I can see what's behind me, but not what's in front. I don't know if it's just my my internet connection or.
Simon speaking. It's in your the capture kit is only showing the wall behind you, and you're cut out from it. Are you able to share your screen out?
Yeah, 1 second. Oh, I need screen sharing.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see it. I'm here, but I can't see myself. I can see my wall.
Yeah, I'm gonna ping Thomas and see if he can help troubleshoot, because you are getting a depth image. It's just it's missing a lot of information, and it might be a matter of how much light is in your room. If there's more light in the wall behind you and less on your face.
Okay.
I'm gonna ping Thomas and see if he can join us.
I think that might be right, because as I go back and
yeah, I always find, Simon speaking again, I always find that it's hard for me to keep in mind that these behave a lot like traditional cameras, and a lot of the same rules do apply. You know, it's giving us depth data, but it still needs light to work.
I'm gonna see if I can find some more light. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
This is Terry speaking. How would I go about sharing the URL? I guess I'm confused on the workflow from Spoke to Hubs and the URL that I would share to experience the space on the front end. Like, how would I find that URL to share?
Simon speaking. You mean to share the Hubs room to your audience or to anyone who wants to see it?
Yes.
Okay, there's in Spoke, you know, you publish the scene when you're ready to use it, right? Even if it's not done, you can publish it then. And then when you go to, it should give you a link to go to Hubs. It'll be in your Hubs account. So you can create a room and then load that scene into it. And even from Spoke, it will give you, once it's done publishing, there'll be a button that says, create a Hubs room with this scene.
Okay.
And from there, there's controls in Hubs, which I can point out now if that'll be helpful, that show you how to share that link with people.
I think I just have to remember that Spoke is just the background. You have to kind of almost create the room again in Hubs by just bringing it over.
Yeah, Simon speaking up. Yeah, Spoke is like the Hubs creator in a way. So Hubs is the experience, Spoke is the editor. This stuff took a lot of trial and error and a lot of just like making things fit in my own head when we were working on Valencia's last performance. So, you know, figuring out how to get this all in line is pretty natural. It's a fairly complicated stuff in many ways. There's just a lot of small parts to remember, right?
While we're getting set up, I was wondering if we could, for those who are not actively working on getting the streams into Hubs via Spoke. Maybe we can talk a bit more about some of the affordances of volumetric performance and how we might like think of the different performative elements for creating like a performance in Hubs. You might want to like participate in that discussion.
Yeah, I haven't quite figured out how to put this into better words yet, but I was just thinking about sort of how the live aspect and that you're creating a performance in Hubs, you're kind of creating an environment that you don't have to occupy all of the time. Like I think with a lot of pre-recorded video performance and stuff here, it's kind of like you're creating a space, but it's only for the purpose of you being in it for the entirety of the performance or whatever is in the video. And I think it's kind of interesting that you can make something that other people can enter and interact with without you being there, and that like the focus isn't just on the performance but on like the environment as well.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I think that's quite essential, and that's coming up also in other conversations. Like I got asked like, oh, is your space live? And you know, it's like, well, it only functions you know, when I'm gonna be in there, you know, for the show. But I love that. Like, and I'm wondering how is that possible? Because we've been butting up on the question of hosting and that infrastructure for having these spaces live. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Simon speaking. We talked about this some yesterday, you and I, Valencia, about this. Elaine, you brought it up well, like it's this durational aspect of the space, right? So even when there is no volumetric stream, like that space still exists and all the assets you put in there, it's still there for someone to visit. And yeah, it seems like there's so many possibilities there for the way you can, you know, have a space where it has to be maintained, you know, on a server, but you don't have to have like a physical space with someone at the door with keys, with lights, with all these different things that we have in physical space, you know, in cities and things like that. So that I haven't thought about it too deeply yet myself, but it seems like there is a lot you could do, you know, and maybe there are some scheduled or spontaneous performances that happen, but people can still be there and explore it and have some other part of the experience, you know, when you're not performing there. Like what would it be like if you just knew people would be there sometimes and you dropped in unannounced, if that were possible to have that kind of traffic there? But you know, what would that create versus scheduled performances?
Definitely the element of exploration of the space, creating an environment to be explored. Kat, I was thinking of the Gallery of the Future, and that is a space that, you know, anyone can go and explore anytime, right?
Yeah, it is. I know that I believe that Marin had shared, this is Kat speaking, sorry. I believe that Marin shared a link to that Hubs site. I'm happy to reshare that through Slack, but yeah, that might be a good place to look, not only for inspiration, but just to see how the variety of artists that we had worked with kind of approached creating a public space on this virtual platform, something that we tried to focus on. And again, all of the work is up there, and it's a multi-room abandoned mall. So that many people worked on, and many people have work in the gallery. So you can go on your own at any time. But what we tried to focus on was how to make a social space out of it. So we didn't do any live streaming. All of our performative work came through in video or sound recordings. So what we're talking about now is like definitely the next step to a more engaging kind of social experiment experience of performance. But yeah, we really tried to focus on how to really take advantage of the capacity in Mozilla Hubs to communicate with people who are in there in real time, other audience members. So we tried to kind of design it around that.
When you say in real time, are you speaking about like when you had the opening, or it's more of like whenever someone enters the space, real time? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it did happen when we had the opening. What I mean to say is that what we tried to design for were instances where, say, I wanted to go visit it, and I would send a link to a friend who's maybe in another part of the world, or just that I can't connect with physically, that when you do go into the space and there are other people, you're able to use the chat function to kind of experience the work together or have conversations about what you're seeing. So trying to figure out how to bring that sense of a live performer, to that sense of like going out to see a show, to the virtual space, if that makes sense, like kind of upholding that social element of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, it's a nice one. Yeah. Oh, I was wondering, like, so you guys are hosting on your own server, so you have that kind of thing set up, that it's because it's there from until the 31st of December, right?
This is Kat speaking. Yeah, I hope so. I got an email the other day that was saying that it might be done on the 25th of December. I'll definitely double check. We were thinking about even continuing to have it up for longer than that, but I'll clarify the days and let you know. But I do believe that we have our own server, not unlike what you all have done with the Volumetric Performance Toolkit.
Okay, so you had like special, like, we can talk about this, the finances of having this live and
yeah, we can have this conversation anytime for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the big question, was the cost, I think.
Yeah, that's not my department. There's so many working pieces and so many different collaborators. I think there were over 46 artists that contributed to this project alone. And I luckily don't have to deal with the budget. That wasn't my job this time around. So I'm not quite sure. I could definitely inquire though.
Okay, yeah, but I see it's doable, right? So we could create spaces that exist on their own, that can be experienced on their own. So it's nice to see the examples around. How's everyone doing? Like those who are getting their streams inside of Spoke.
This is Terry speaking. I was able to get my stream inside of Spoke and then like experience it in Hubs, but I seem to be paused when I try to look at myself through Hubs. Like I'm not moving, so I'm trying to like redo, just reboot the stream key and just see if that helps.
Autoplay issue?
Yeah, Simon speaking. So we didn't have a ton of time to really look into this much on Friday, but we briefly spoke about the autoplay limitations of a lot of modern browsers. And I'm going to, it's linked on the series of instructions, but I'm going to see if I can give you a link here. There's some settings you have to enable in your browser to allow autoplay to work. And there are things that you generally want to switch back after you're done, because there's a reason that there's a restriction on autoplay, right? It's we don't want our lives filled with ads. What browser are you using, Karen?
Using Safari.
Okay. Let me
but
see.
I can change to Chrome, or I can change to something else if I need to.
Thomas is here, I think, knows these directions a little bit better. Hey, Thomas, welcome.
Hello.
Hey, Thomas.
Hi.
We were just looking at the autoplay question, which we didn't spend too much time on Friday, but that's what Terry is coming up against, and Safari particularly.
Are you having it, seeing issues with not being able to turn on autoplay, or it's not responding?
This is Terry speaking. I haven't even tried doing that. I apologize. I'll change my settings now. But yeah, it was in me trying to experience the live stream in Hubs. It was just paused. Like it was working and spoke in real time, but then when I brought it into Hubs, it was paused. So I think I just have to change my settings.
Yeah, there's two things that can cause that. One is that it tries to play and then it can't because autoplay is turned off. And I've seen another bug which I'm trying to solve where it just freezes up. But then typically you would get a few frames and then it would stop. And in that case, the only solution is to actually refresh, just to refresh the browser, and then it will start working again.
Okay, this is Terry speaking. I'm just going to try to refresh and see if that helps.
And then I noticed that Marianne just posted something in the Slack. Marianne, you're still having issues? What kind of issues are you seeing?
Yeah, so it's not capturing my face. I showed Simon before. I'm trying to, and so I added some light and it's still pretty dark. It's like, yeah. So I'm not sure how to fix that.
We're gonna have to look at, the only thing I can think of is that there's a lot of backlight. There's a lot of that there could be light behind you, and so the camera has an auto exposure setting, and the auto exposure or the exposure is off, or it chooses the wrong auto exposure, and so then it's like you're silhouetted. So that's one thing that I think could be the case. That's what I've seen myself, is that when it's very dark, it's typically because it doesn't know how to light the scene because there's too much dynamic lighting. For example, if I pointed up at the scene, so if you look at my space right now, if this light were on like that, and I stand in front of it like this, the RealSense could get confused by that bright light behind me. So even though, my regular camera works, from a RealSense perspective, it could get confused.
I don't really, I guess I'll try turning off my room light, but I didn't have this issue before, but I'll just try changing the lighting and see. Second.
But the stream runs, it's just very dark.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the process of debugging, or because we have that Slack channel, it's helpful to post. For me, it's helpful to see screenshots of issues or short video clips of issues you all are seeing. Another thing that I'm thinking of is that the lighting, if you've changed the lighting in Spoke, the actual 3D lighting environment, that could have an impact, though I haven't played with that, so I don't know what the impact is of that. But Marianne, the one way to look at that is, as long as you can look on the Raspberry Pi, right? Is what you're seeing in the Spoke the same as what you're seeing on the Raspberry Pi, or Spoke look worse?
Oh, I haven't brought it into Spoke. I can try that.
Oh, right. Okay, so what I would do in your case, I've seen this before, Marianne, is restart your Raspberry Pi. So
Okay.
something is, nothing that you're going to do with lighting, as you're finding, is going to solve that. So I'm not sure what is causing that specific thing. I've seen it myself. It's like a corrupt image is more the way to think of it. I'm hoping that if you restart your Pi, you won't see that. But we should keep track of that. If you're seeing it a lot, then I need to try and debug. I've seen this a few times on mine, but not that much.
Okay.
So if you were to restart, so that's actually a good picture. If you don't mind posting that in Slack as a reference for us,
Sure.
so that in documentation or in future documentation, we can say, if it looks like this, that means something's wrong. And basically what's happening is there's something wrong with the signal coming from the camera or the way that it's being processed before it gets to the real sense. And I just need to do we need to do some diagnostics to figure out what is causing that.
Okay. So I see that I think both Terry has a really nice stream going in her Hubs room. So if you wanna, I could just yeah, use we have 4 more minutes left for this workshop. Alim, you also, is this a link to Hubs room too? Oh, this is the link to the, oh,
Yeah, this is a link to.
Okay, okay. Well, let's go into, I'm gonna share the screen and we first go into Terry's room, then we'll jump to your room. This is really exciting. I'm gonna share the screen for the benefit of the recording and for anyone else who prefers. This is great. I'm gonna open this in yeah. Yeah, this is looking really, really nice. So I'm gonna just zoom out so you can see. I really love these dummies on the in the scene.
That's really cool.
I have to try to, oh, I'm getting stuck between them. Oops. Okay. Let me try. Yeah, there's Terry in front of her green screen. This is amazing. Okay, all right. So yeah, any comments on what you observe? Thank you, Terry, for performing and for letting us witness you.
This is Carlos speaking. I'm finding it more interesting, the idea of playing with directional light, because we can see Terry's shadow, and that almost looks like another character that they could also work with as well, with right kind of lighting and angles and whatnot, and could be even interesting to portray different ideas of depth that way too.
Oh, the shadow, yeah. I also feel there's with the audio, there's reverberation. Yeah, that's a really nice point, Carlos.
This is Carlos speaking. I'm finding it
more do you hear that? I'm hearing your.
It's coming from, this is Kat. It's from Terry's stream, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're hearing you can hear the latency. We can yeah, that's something we can really play with. Yeah, that's this idea of I'm watching this called dark materials, shadow matter, dark matter. So that reminds me of that, and it's something that I think Terry you've worked with as well. And it's interesting though how I'm seeing very strong just the video, if it would be a flat video, Interesting. Oops. So from the side, it gets volumetric, and from in front, it feels more 2D somehow. Especially when Terry is really close to her green screen. It's interesting. Okay, thank you. It's like 2:30, so let's get quickly to, I'll stop the share. Thank you so much, Terry. Let's see, let's jump to Alim's link. Yeah, I think the link though is supposed to be volumetric performance.art. So I wonder if Alim, you might be able to change that link. I don't know why it comes up as VPT.
There's a new one that has the volumetric performance art that's at the beginning. I think that one.
Simon speaking. We have noticed a bug with that VPT hub.link. That's supposed to be a sharing link, but right now it seems to work if you just replace VPT hub.link with volumetric performance.art.
Oh, that's mine.
I think my stream like paused and it's still catching back up to when I played again.
Oh, wow. I'm on an ocean. This is amazing. I'm enjoying experiencing your room. That's okay. Oh, I went through Simon. It's great just to see the world. Are you, do you have a, did you choose, did you change your auto play settings?
I think that I did. I thought I did.
It's playing for me, Simon speaking. I can see your stream.
Yeah, for me, I think you're frozen maybe, but.
I had to reload my page and then it started working.
Okay, I do that. Oh, I forgot to share my screen. It seems it's still a bit frozen, but it's still a lovely experience being on the waves, on the water. Yeah. This is great.
Aline, your image quality is really clear on your stream.
Yeah, I'm surprised how clear that is.
Oh, so you can see, so Simon, you're experiencing, you want to share your screen then? Because I'm somehow.
Yeah, let me see if I have screen sharing capabilities here.
I'll stop.
Yes.
Yeah, or I also play on my computer.
Can you all see my screen right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Do you have a ring light, Aline?
I don't. I just took the lamp off of the lampshade off of my light.
Okay. It's very clear. I have not, my stream isn't, because when I did my stream, it was just all natural light, but I'm seeing like you really do need some artificial light setup, but this is super crisp.
Part of it might be that, Aleem, you're very close to the camera.
Yeah.
I wonder how, because there's a limited number of dots here, right? And I wonder how it would hold up. I don't know how much space you have in the room you're in there, but I wonder how it would hold up if you backed up. Because Valencia, you were far away enough from the Connect camera where your whole body was pictured. But that might be something to consider. Is that being front lit and also being closer does give you more resolution.
Mm-hmm.
For mine, I'm finding that the closer I am, the less, like, the more pixelated. I don't know, it's weird. I might just be having issues with mine, but I can share a screenshot in Slack.
Yeah, please do, thank you.
Yeah, this is great. I just want to. We're at 2:36 on Pacific time, so this is really good. I could like stay here for much longer, but just in the interest of the time, and yeah, we can come back. And thank you so much for Aleem and Terry for sharing your streams and your worlds. This is really it's really inspiring. Okay, so we come back to the gallery view.
One thing, when Marianne speaking, Valencia, I was thinking about affordances. Hello?
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. And it just reminded me, I took a class over the summer, and like it was a bunch of people that I hadn't met before in my program, and the professor realized that none of us knew how tall the other person was, because we were just kind of like Zoom, like just kind of floating heads in a little Zoom cube or square. So I was thinking about that, how in your project it was great to like see the full body and get a sense of depth as well, because it's some of the things that I miss about seeing people in person.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a lovely point. How can we be more? And then the next thing I'm curious, like, can we get more than one stream inside the same scene?
Yeah.
So you could really have, not just one person being like represented in 3D as they are, but like, more. And what does that mean as performers, but also witnessing each other in the same space and not having like being these miniature, not having miniature avatars, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. That's a really great point. So I know this, it's a lot at once, a lot of information at once, and I do know it takes a lot more time and practice to with the kit. So thanks for bearing with me and still plowing through that process and the learning curves. But yeah, we'll have I'm looking forward to continuing with this and seeing how we can create and use these constraints and limitations for the benefit as a generative tool, right? I find in my experience, definitely the constraints have spawned, given some great ideas for, and I found, some creative turning points happen because of the constraints. So thank you so much for joining us for these this series of workshops, and And I want to wish you a wonderful holidays to everyone. Thank you for taking the time to journey with us. And I hope that, you know, during these holidays, you'll have time to regroup and rest, but also that, you know, the ideas and the new ways of, the new ideas and ways of seeing performance could maybe assimilate um, and yeah, we'd like to encourage you, you know, if you have any ideas for how you'd like to work together, you know, start thinking about who you might want to reach out to work with. You can work peers groups. I'm really, you know, open to what what can come out of like the group thinking together. So please don't feel obliged to actually, you know, do, how do I say it? Do anything. I want it to come out, you know, like quite organically, but do start thinking about, you know, if you'd like to collaborate with each other and any like ideas that are coming up, any like images that might be coming up um, for, you know, a performance, a virtual environment. And we're going to be coming back on the 11th, January 11th. And we'd like to have some proposals for work together, like how you might want to create a piece together. Of course, you know, there's possibilities for other ways of collaborating. So, you know, we're all areas, we don't want to like put anything prescriptive, but that's going to be the idea for how we're going to continue the process going forward in January. Simon, is there anything you think we should add?
Simon speaking. Mostly that, you know, there was a lot this past couple of weeks, but we're just getting started. Looking forward to seeing what everyone's going to do. You know, please use the Slack channel just to communicate with each other. You know, that's a way that you can all have group discussions, one-on-one discussions, direct message each other. If technical things come up, you can post in there too. You know, I'll be checking that to see if I can help in any way. But yeah, that about covers it for me. Thanks, Valencia, and thanks to everyone for being here.
Thank you. Thomas, anything from your end?
Sorry, this is Thomas speaking. I was muted. I'm really excited to see what you all will make. We're continuing to work on the capture kit, so there's going to be an update, and that update will roll out early next year. We'll get a higher frame rate because I think the frame rate is low right now. We're getting 3 to 5 frames per second, which really isn't enough for fluid motion, and we're going to try and get it to 10 to 15, which still isn't perfect, but it makes a big difference from where we're at. So that's something that, as you're thinking about the fidelity of what we're building, that we're working on. I'm also updating Spoke, hopefully today or tomorrow, so that you can control the threshold. So basically the threshold of the point cloud, so that if you don't want a wall in there, the wall won't show up, right? So I think that's something that right now it really shows you, you know, your whole space, and sometimes you don't want all of that. So being able to threshold, I think, is a big deal, and then having more control over the points is also a big deal. So that's going to come out hopefully by the end of tomorrow, but I'll post in Slack when that happens, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm taking a break, but I'm happy to jump on and help out, troubleshoot, or provide any feedback. Yeah, so that's where it's at. It's really exciting to see this in other people's hands. I love it. Oh, and then the final note, based on the conversation today, is I'm going to look at if I can expose the exposure settings of the RealSense camera, because I think that we're seeing problems with auto exposure. And that's an interesting thing in itself, but we should, so I'm going to look at what can I provide in that little web UI, in the web UI that you, where you put the RTMP address in. Maybe we can put some more controls in there, so you have control over, or there can be more control over the lighting and how it chooses to do exposure. So that's something that's on my plate to look at. And then finally, last week, we were having issues with connection over poor Wi-Fi, or not even poor Wi-Fi, just over Wi-Fi. And I need to make a system so that it will be able to reconnect, because it shouldn't just crash. It should try, you know, if it loses connections, you should just try again and keep pushing. So that's another piece. So in summary, we're still working on it, but I hope that what you have in your hands is sufficient. And from what I just saw, I love it. I love both those very different environments and very different approaches to doing this. And I'm so excited to see what world you all will build and how you're bringing yourself into that and others into that, how it all, you know, what kind of new ideas that sparks. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you for all the work you and everyone at Glowbox has been doing to make it possible. You are truly what they call wizard of code, getting things seamlessly. Like, yeah, just adding the volumetric stream function to Spoke so fluidly as like if it would be normally part of the interface was just mind blowing. So I want to say that. So yeah, for my part, thank you. And I just want to remind you about the Padlet. That is also there for you to like post your process and stills and however you'd like to share that with the group. And we'll be sending a form for your mid-residency reports that we just like you to just, it's not long at all, just a few prompts to share a bit about your process and how you're feeling. And so we asked for that at December 31st. So that's going to come in an email from Jules shortly. So that's it. So happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Eat well. And let's be rid of 2020. So yeah, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to Debbie and Juan and Vanessa and Norma and everyone who's been helping with the access. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you, Jules, as well, for supporting us. Yeah, so take care. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everyone.
Okay, see you. Happy holidays.